Hello, how are you? It is Friday, y'all. It's Friday night, and you know what we do on Friday nights at 7 o'clock. We are live in the conversation room. Hello, welcome. I see we already have people on. Please, please, please feel free to comment. Actually, before I even tell you who I am, on the discussion on the thread, it tells you give StreamYard permission to see your comments and your face. Please do that before we even get started, because I want to know who I'm talking to tonight. So go ahead and do that. Hello, Lakia. Hello, Marie. I am Jamila Scott. I am the host tonight of Conversations with Graciously Me. I want to thank you again for joining me. And if you want to know more about me, right down here at the bottom at www.jamilascott.com, you will find out more about what Jamila Scott Enterprises encompasses. We also, how Conversations with Graciously Me started was from the Graciously Me Women's Empowerment Group. It has now grown public, and so we still have the group. So if we have ladies out there who are looking for empowerment, knowledge, information, fashion, whatever you're looking for that has to do with a woman, we talk about it. So go on over on Facebook after the show and look up Graciously Me Women's Empowerment Group, and you'll find us. Go ahead and join. We'll be glad to add you to the sisterhood. If you're not a woman, but you just want to keep up with what's going on, go ahead and like the Conversations with Graciously Me Facebook page. That you can go back, see old shows, find out what's going on, keep up with what's going on in the conversation room. So hello, Denise. Hello, Zakia. Hello, Kimberly. Welcome to the show. Oh, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and type hashtag replay so that I know you were here. I want to give you some love. Get your drinks, y'all. Get your drinks, get your snacks. We're just hanging out, having a conversation. So we want you to be comfortable, lay back. If you're on your cell phone, just chill out. If you have questions throughout tonight, go ahead, type the questions. This is your show. We want to be here for you and provide what you are looking for. So with that being said, if you hear something tonight that you were like, that's an aha moment, or you say, oh, that was life-changing, I can use that information, and you want to see this platform continue to grow, go ahead and hit us up on the Cash App. You will see that down at the bottom right. It doesn't matter how much, but you know nothing is free, but we want to keep this thing going. And if you want to support and sow on good ground, we are that. So without further ado, you guys, I want to let you know who we have in the conversation room tonight. We have all the way from the president's hometown of Delaware. It looked like ever since we've been talking about Joe Biden, all you hear is Delaware, Delaware, Delaware. That's all you hear. Now, our guest tonight is coming from all the way from little old Delaware. He is a husband, a father, a triathlete, an entrepreneur, a financial coach, and last but not least, he is a motivational speaker. And he is none other than G.H. Corbin. And I think he gave me permission tonight to call him Corbin. So welcome to the conversation room.
Hey, thank you. What an awesome introduction. Love what y'all got going on. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. I know there's more to come, but I just want to make sure that everybody is just relaxed. That's what we do here. It's Friday night. Where I am, it's raining, so it's kind of laid back, and that's how we are. We're laid back. We ask the questions. We talk. We have a discussion. Again, hello to everyone that's in the house tonight. Go ahead, introduce yourself. I tried to do what I could, but I want to hear from you.
You did a great job. I think the only thing I would change, I might take the little off of Delaware, but nah, I'm just kidding. We are the first state. We are a small state, and many people, Midwest, West Coast, are just now beginning to realize who we are after, Biden became vice president, now president. But I'm George H. Corbin Jr. Most people call me Corbin, but I do not have a problem with George. And as you stated, I am a husband, father, many different hats in terms of different professions that I worked in. And I think the only one that didn't make the bio is now I'm a grandfather. So
Oh,
I
congratulations.
do have an 11th-month-old yesterday, 2 days ago, whatever the 24th was. But yeah, I'm a G-pop now. I go by G-pop, not grandpop, not granddad, grandpa. I am a young, excited grandfather, just like I'm still a young, excited father. So just in a nutshell, that's kind of who I am. In conjunction with what you've already stated, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you for accepting the invite tonight. We are excited to have you here. Guys, we are talking about don't burn the bridge to your future. We're trying to maintain relationships, come out of this pandemic better than when we entered the pandemic. And some relationships, they do need to be severed. They need to be cut off, burned up, all of that. But there are some relationships that you should hold on to, even if you don't think that you should hold on to them. You should. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump right on in. You ready? All right. So let me ask you, in general, what does a good relationship look like?
I think first and foremost, a good relationship has to start with some type of communication from the beginning. I think many people come into relationships already focused on how it should be. They already have this preconceived notion, depending on the person, what they've heard, what they've seen. But I think it has to start with authentic, down to earth conversations that just need to kind of hopefully let guards down and allow people to be themselves. Like so many people go through these phases where you don't get to see the real person because this person is showing you what they think you want to see. But I think conversations just need to be natural. So first and foremost, I think communication, true communication, not saying the things that we think people want to hear us say and want to hear us, display to them, but just truthful conversations, healthy, wholesome, friendly conversations, and then it'll begin to grow from there. But first and foremost, if you can't communicate and be trustworthy with it and honest, then I feel like that's a major part of your foundation. So you're not going to even be able to build. And if you do build, you know what happens to a house that doesn't have good foundation.
Yes, yes. Lakia said that's the first part. You're exactly right. That is definitely the first part. And we are wrapping up love, self-care, February, the whole month of February. We tried to hone in on not only just relationships, but loving ourselves, loving our children, loving the people that we are around. But I know tonight we also want to talk about professional relationships as well. So
Right.
would you say that that same information you just gave us based on communication and having a firm foundation, would you say that that also applies professionally? Because I know a lot of us are getting out here, we're getting our feet wet in entrepreneurship, we're getting new jobs and all of that. So would you say that communication is still key in those type of relationships as well?
Absolutely. I think the only difference would be the conversation now. I think people need to understand that professional conversation has its place and personal conversation has its place. And even if you know the person on a personal level, once the professional piece comes in, we got to be able to change those hats and flip that switch. The key to the professional part is knowing who you're talking to and allowing them to know who you are because most times when we go into situations where we want to talk to somebody professional, we already have in mind what we want or what we're hoping the conversation, what happens from the conversation. So sometimes we go in again with a preconceived notion of this is what I want. And it really needs to go into allowing that person to be who they're supposed to be instead of everything like, well, let me talk to this person because I want to get. And that comes off in the conversation. Again, if we keep it natural and allow the person to just naturally share things with them or share things with us, it makes for a better relationship, depending on the relationship, depending on where we want to go, depending on how long-term this relationship is, when we met them, how we met them, all those things take a part in the way that conversation should go.
That is so true. I think this is your booth. Stacey.
Hey. Yeah, for sure.
Hi. Hello, she said facts. That is so true. That is so true. So, so with professional relationships and with personal relationships, communication is definitely the foundation. You have to have conversations. You have to be real. You have to be honest. You have to allow it to flow naturally, is what I'm hearing you say. So, what are some of the signs that maybe you should move on from a relationship that you find, wait a minute, hold up. I should pause, pump the brakes for a second. What would I see? What should I look for?
You should look for people not responding. First and foremost, if a person over a period of time isn't getting back, I don't care if that's personal or professional, that's a red flag. I tell all my mentees, I tell anybody close to me that's in my circle or reaches out to me to ask me my opinion, pay attention to the signs. I just shared with a colleague and a close friend the other day, like, you have to ask questions. So if you're beginning to see a person, whether it's personal or professional, not respond, that's a flag. We got to begin to pay attention to that. If a person is sharing with us that they're going to be there at 7:00 and they don't show up till 9, you got to pay attention to that sign. Was that just a one-time thing? Did they get caught up in traffic? Pay attention to those signs. Don't let a person just show up and feed you what you want to hear, because again, smoke and mirrors is real. Magicians make a living off of deception and taking your focus off of what's real. That's real life. And people do that every day based off of the narrative they want you to see. So if they say to you, oh, well, this is what's happening and this is why I wasn't here, okay, we'll give them that. But then you pay attention, because people are going to be them. So we need to pay attention to what they say, when they say it, and how. And don't make excuses, because again, if you talk to somebody that got out of a rough relationship, they always can go back and tell you the signs that they saw. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't see it then. No, you didn't want to see it then. Like that's what it was. You because you were so caught up in the person that you thought they were, or you were so caught up in believing what you wanted to believe. Because we'll tell ourselves something. I mean, the word talks about speak what you want to happen, what you want to see happen, and life and death in the tongue. So you're speaking and believing like, oh, he's the one, or she's the one, or this is going to work. And you will say that so much that you won't pay attention to the signs. So one of the things you definitely need to pay attention to is, what do they say? When are they saying it? How often? Especially in personal relationships. If a person isn't reaching out to you till nighttime and you don't hear from them all day, and that's somebody that you trying to build and grow with, depending on what kind of job they have, all those things take into account. And again, the key is to ask the questions. We can't just rely on what somebody says, and that's how we ask them too. Because if you're interrogating and you feel like if a man or a woman feels interrogated, then they'll begin to take on a different role. Like, okay, wait, like, I worked 12 hours and I can't touch my phone. So don't say I didn't want to get to you. So different scenarios, but in a nutshell, definitely pay attention to when, the what's, the where's, and the how's.
Right. And like you said, pay attention to the signs. You're right. Most of the time we say, oh, I knew that, he was this, and that before. And when when we were together early on, I saw that, but it's almost like a deer in headlights for some people. They are not going in, with really the right filter on. So because, we would want a desire so much, it can jade what we see. And then it looks like hindsight is 2020. Like, you saw that the whole time. Don't act like you ain't see that the whole time. Or boy, don't act like you didn't know her mouth was big the whole time. Don't act like she wasn't loud the whole time. Now all of a sudden, you know what I mean? So yes.
And that happens so often. And I'm a witness. I'm completely transparent that, I've been in relationships, both personal and business, and I tell myself something that I believe is going to happen. So if I'm working with a business partner and I've seen some signs where they don't look consistent or they don't look reliable, I might say to myself, well, you know what? The longer that I'm with them, the better they'll get. Well, that's not always the case. Everybody might not grow and get better. So we have to really pay attention to those signs early on. And then as time begins to progress, people always say pay attention to people in seasons. And I believe that. And we're not talking weather seasons. Right, pay attention to them when things are rough. Pay attention to them when things are good. How do they act when they get paid, and how do they act when they in between checks? All those make a difference. How do they act when all the bills are paid, and how do they act? Because a person paying all their bills having money might be a totally different person that rubs you the wrong way, because now they're ready to go shop, or they want to buy the bar out, or they're ready to travel. So just because a person is doing well, because that's what people want to gravitate to. People want to gravitate to the person that they feel as though is doing well or is accomplished. But that's sometimes a filter. You know what I mean? It's the filter that they put on, like, I'm doing well, and then they get home and don't have no furniture, and you wonder, like, what
happened?
What just happened? Because you didn't ask any questions. Wow.
Yeah, so it's so important. You have to ask the questions. You have to, So let me ask you this. So, okay, because I want you to break this thing down. I don't want to miss anything tonight. So we talked about, how do you know a relationship you should move on? Now, what are the signs that you should maintain it where, okay, this is looking like it's going pretty well. Let's see if we can keep this thing afloat. What signs are good signs?
What kind of relationship?
Let's talk about both. It's up to you. So we can start off with professional, or however you want to do it. Just let us know which one we're talking about.
Well, I'll say on a personal level, it has to be some type of give and push. It shouldn't just be one person every morning being the one to say good morning and how are you. It should be another way as well. So, if relationships are going to have they rough spots, and again, the key is, and every situation is different. And honestly, I share this, and I'll share it publicly. When I speak with couples, or I speak with individuals going through certain questions, I won't answer when it comes to a relationship. I give a generic answer, because if I say to you, you know what, Miss Scott, he's no good, leave him alone, that he might have just 2 more weeks to get it together, and then he might be the man of your dreams. And now I've rubbed you the wrong way and said, nah, for the past 6 months, he's been doing X, Y, and Z. It's time to go. But those last 6 months might have been some real tragic things that he was going through, and he really needed to get through that, and he really needed you in the corner. So, you really got to pay attention to the good in a person as well. And as you said at the beginning of the show, it doesn't always mean that we're supposed to stay in it, but I think we should definitely pay attention to how we're being treated. And that's what I meant by the seasons. And if a person can come back and be honest with you in their rough times, and be transparent and share what they're going through, and not try to hide and keep you away from stuff, those are signs that they mean something. And if you're doing the same, then those are good bricks to begin to start to lay on and to begin to start to grow on. But if you have to be the one that have to push and pull all the time, whether it's for his or her time, whether it's for questions that you're trying to learn and ask, if you have to be the one that always feels like you're prying, then that's tough. But if that person is openly trying to share, and they're openly trying to work through some things, and they're telling you that X, Y, and Z, or I'm not going to be able to do this, that, and they're clear, those are people that you want to say, all right, let me give she an opportunity. And that works on a professional level as well. That communication key is very important. And I think, again, the mistake that people make is that we don't allow people to be human sometimes. And even in not allowing them to be human, we don't ask the questions that apply to the right now. If you're the business owner and I'm trying to do business with you, sometimes we only ask business questions. But we need to, even in our business relationship, not that we got to pry into their business, but how a person kind of handles their business professionally and personally tells a lot about who they are. What they spend their time on and what they do has a lot to do with how they're going to treat you when it comes time to your partnership and your growth. So those are all key factors that have to really be taken into account when it comes to how am I trying to grow? Because a person can pop up and share with you and treat you one way for the weekend or for a week, and then go missing for 2 or 3.
That's called ghosting, right?
It most definitely is. I'm
Okay.
soul today.
What'd you say?
I said that might touch somebody's soul today.
Oh Lord, I'm gonna look. You the expert. I'm just asking the questions.
And you're doing great.
So, look, you guys that's watching, we're talking about don't burn the bridge to your future, meaning how to maintain relationships that should be maintained. And ask some questions. Go ahead in the comments. If you have questions, type them in. I'll be sure that we get to those questions. So everything has not come beforehand. So I do want to get your questions in. Like I said, we're having a conversation. We're in the conversation room. We're hanging out. So it's informal. We just chilling, right? Getting some information on a Friday night. So listen, what are some of the reasons why someone would say, hey, I'm sick of this. Like, I'm burning this bridge. I'm done. I'm over. But really, they shouldn't. You got it? You got the question?
I do. And
okay.
Time, people are very impatient nowadays. Society has put men and women on this time clock that everything is supposed to happen, like high school, college, job, marriage, kids, picket fence, house. And that's not always the case. That's not really, life isn't this straight line, ironed out like that. So if you're asking if the bridge should stay or if the bridge is time to go.
No, if the person, it should stay, but the person is feeling, they're in their emotions or they're in their feelings and they feel like whether, and this is professional or personal, but they're in there and they're like, we're ready to let it go. But really it's not a relationship that they should let go. It's one that they should not burn the bridge to, but they're considering it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have to come down to situations. So if anybody's in the chat that wants to, if you can be transparent or without sharing too much, if you want to give an example, I could speak specifically to an example. But if a person is in a situation where the person they're dealing with is giving it their all, or they're trying and they seem like they're putting forth effort, I mean, honest effort, not sitting on the couch saying they're going to get a job and you don't see them trying to get a job. I mean, seriously, sometimes there's some rough seasons and there's some rough patches, but it will also depend on, for instance, people that know me, that have known me for years, it's certain things that shouldn't be able to be spoken about. Like, people aren't going to be able to say, I think Corbin is playing soccer now. Like, people are going to be like, oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Corbin picked that up at this point, because they know my character. They know what I probably would and wouldn't do. So it's the same way in that relationship. Those questions early on that you're asking, that's kind of like your Rolodex of what's, if he or she is normally punctual, if he or she is going the extra mile and they're doing things that are to your liking, and then all of a sudden they hit a rough patch, that those aren't burn the bridge moments. Those aren't, I gotta get out of here. No, those are situations we got to figure out why we hit this patch. What's the root of what we're seeing manifest now? Why is he or she so angry? Why is he or she now coming late? Why are they not taking showers on a regular? Whatever it is that's causing you to say, I didn't sign up for this. You got to, if you really care about that person and you have time invested, you got to be able to go back and peel back some layers to figure out how we got here. Now, if you're seeing signs like that and you only been around a person a week or two, then I'm not saying you got to burn the bridge. Maybe you just go ahead and you go a different way. But I'm talking to people that have crossed this bridge with this person. And you've endured some stuff. You've seen them through some good and some bad. Those are the times you got to kind of check the character on it. Like, okay, all right, let's see how we can work through this. And then we got to resort back to the communication, because now how we approach that situation is just as important as the fact that we're approaching it. Because approaching it is one thing, but how we approach it is key. Like, we have to approach it in a way where it's not going to cause that person to go further into whatever they're into. So all of what's going on has to come into play before we decide that we either want to leave or burn the bridge or go for a run.
Right. Someone said, run for your life if this happens after 2 weeks.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But I will say this.
Okay.
Run for your life, but don't burn the bridge.
Okay.
Because go ahead.
Okay. I'm listening. I'm listening.
Because who I was 15 years ago, dating 21, 20 something is not who I am now. So what happens is that everybody kind of grows at a different pace. And what happens is people get into relationships where one individual is here and they met a person that's here, and this person they want them to get here. They like, all right, come on, I'm trying to get them there.
Right.
But they don't always get there when they're in that relationship. Just like we've seen people leave relationships and they get better. So don't burn that bridge, because you just never know who that person is. You know, right. Like you said, some bridges need to be burned. And one of the things we'll talk about later is that rebuilding piece of the bridge, because that's a whole nother component. So, but if you have to run, if you have to go, don't burn that bridge. You never know who she was. You try to get out of that thing gracefully. You try to get out of that thing, you know, in a way where it's, you know what, this isn't what's best for us. You know, and I think, you know, I don't want to, you know, cause you anymore. Whatever you have to say, where you have to exit from that situation, but don't leave fired up and I got to prove a point to get out. Mm-hmm. Just you leave in a peaceful way. You know, you get out in a healthy way, and then you cross that bridge, because you never know. 2-3 years now, later down the line, we've seen it in movies, but that's real life. You bump back into that person and you like, Craig? Oh
is that you? Yeah.
And Craig has matured. Right. Craig got counseling. Craig got saved. So, you know, all of those, you just never know. You know what I mean? Because we all have triggers. The difference is that some of us have figured out how to manage the trigger, and some of us haven't. So whatever might be going on with Craig or Keisha or whoever, you give them some time and some room to work through that. And then again, if you have to leave, don't burn that bridge.
All right. So someone said, so you're supposed to keep them in your life because they might grow later. Is that what you said?
I say that. No. So it depends on what they're in your life for, because we tend to keep baggage on us that's weighing us down. They're not supposed to be with us. I just said leave and don't burn the bridge in case you have to cross it again, or you might be their lifeline where they might have to cross it again. Mm-hmm. Like that person might have to come back to you and say, even if it's I apologize, even if I know I missed out, but I hope and pray you're doing what, but give them that opportunity and give yourself that opportunity. Again, some bridges need to be burnt. You don't want them to follow you. But if you're separating from a situation, and every situation is different, again, but if you're separating from a situation and you're trying to separate to grow and move on, I mean, I don't think there's a real reason for them to be around in your life. But it also depends on how they came into your life. There's a lot of different factors with each and every relationship. That's why I often say some questions have to be answered, you know, generically, and some of them can be specific. You know, the person that was in your life for 20 years and then y'all tried to date for 6 months and it didn't work out, that doesn't mean y'all possibly can't go back to a normal platonic relationship. It, you know, just, you know, it doesn't mean you got to throw that 20 years away, depending on what happened for those 6 months. So there's a lot of different variables that happen in relationships. And the same happens on the professional side.
Well, now that you say professional side, and y'all, the makeup artist in me, if you go to my website, you will see that I am a makeup artist. I try to look, ladies, let's pause for a second, because I know y'all don't want your girl to go out like this, right? So I tried a new lipstick tonight. I ain't even gonna tell you the name, but look, I'll do a little quick.
From where I was sitting,
me.
I guess
It's
that's the male in me. I'm like, you look good.
before the end of the night, it's gonna be all the way down there. Y'all gonna be talking about me. Why she on there? The lipstick all the way down her chin. Look, so we just gonna fix this. This live TV, y'all just come on with me. All right. So that was a short little station break. I got a question for you, or actually a viewer does. And the question is, professionally, how do you reach out to the people or build relationships with the people who you would like to be in your professional circle? Not technically become their friend, but possibly want to build a mentee-mentor relationship.
Good question. Good question. So if you have access to that person via social media, I'm a big component on, and I tell all my mentees this, and I don't tell them this because I want to receive something back. It's just a teaching lesson depending on where they go in life. Mm-hmm. What do you bring to the table as the mentee? Like, what do you bring to the table for the mentor? So, because again, remember I said earlier in a relationship, in professional relationships, it's always you want something. If a person is involved in real estate, you want to pick their brain on real estate. If a person does hair for a living and you want to get into that, you pick their brain. Like that's the pull that you're trying to get from the mentor, from the professional. But what can you bring to the table? So I teach and share the mentees is find out what they do and find out how you can make their life easier. Find out how you can, if the person owns a shop and you want to learn how to run a shop, then ask them, what can you come do for free? Can I come sweep up? Can I come clean your windows? What would you like me to do? Can I detail your car? Because some stuff, many of the lessons that you will learn from a mentor doesn't always come from specifically what you want. It comes later. Some of the best mentors that I've had is they came from personal things that have happened where I did X, Y, and Z. And they said, wow, I didn't think you would stay out here with me in these swampy, muddy situations with your sneaks on. And because I did that, it made them see like, oh, he's serious. So if you have a connection to get to them, find out what you can do for them. And then once you do that, I think they tend to let down their guard a little more because depending on the level of the professional, everybody might want to be mentored by them. Everybody might be calling that person. So when you begin to get that email, that call, that DM on a regular basis of, can you mentor me? Can you mentor me? That's why you see so many professionals now pocketing everybody in a group. Like, okay, for $79 a month, you're in my exclusive Facebook group. You'll get a 1 hour call from me a month. You know, they kind of coin that, or they do pre-records. But if it's somebody that you feel like you can get to that's tangible, that's somewhere in your neighborhood, they mentioned communities, I strongly suggest, first and foremost, if it's somebody that you truly believe is going to be able to pour into your life, find out what they do and what they like where you can help, and get in and find that as your avenue to build relationships. Because again, depending on the person, they get that every day. And mentorship is typically free. You know, again, social media and COVID has really caused entrepreneurs and business people to make a pivot, because what they were used to doing live, I'm going to do a seminar. And they pack out the house, and for an hour, you know what I mean, everybody paid $100, but that's 1,000 people in there. Miss Scott, we're going to do that one day. Get ready. So you have everybody in a forum, but because of COVID, they had to figure out another way. So it was like, okay, we can't get into an arena 6 feet, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to open it up where I'm going to have my mentees come a different way. So I hope that answered that person's question. Please, if I didn't, double back and answer. But that would be the first thing to do. If they're in the community, get out in the community and volunteer and be around. Because again, I'll tell you, I have mentors in my life, and I have people that I mentor. And I've gotten on some of my mentees, because if I'm up before them, or if I'm out shaking before them, or if I get to the event before them, you're not serious. If the event is at 8 and I say I'm going to be there at 6, they should be there at 5:30. They should be. Not to say they got to open my door, but they should be there. That shows me that you really want a mentor. Just showing up to say, some people just like the idea of saying, oh, such and such is my mentor, or I was mentored by such and such. That means nothing if they're not dropping any nuggets in your life that's going to make you grow. So I hope that answered that person's question.
Exactly. You're so right. And a lot of people just want to leech on to you and hold on to try to just get any crumb that might fall. And that's not the person that you want on to you. So I understand totally what you mean about they have to show effort. They have to show consistency. They have to show that. And when you're doing that, that person is not becoming your friend. Trust me, because you're pulling out of them. You're making them be more. You have expectations. And so you can still be a cheerleader for them. You can still have conversations with them. You can still pour into them, but you don't have to be like, girl, did you see that? Yeah, I saw that. No, that's a whole different type of relationship. And so it should be boundaries. It really should be boundaries in that type of situation. Mary Ellen said, you're speaking the truth. If you do your part, there's always a chance to reunite. So do not burn bridges.
Absolutely. And we can get to that later. But yeah, I have a living witness, testimony that goes along with that.
Right. So Mark says in some instances, burnt bridges can be rebuilt. Sometimes the bridge burn was necessary to express the true value of the relationships that is being challenged, or the relationship that is being challenged. Many great and strong relationships were at one point challenged and later restored with great soundness and stability. That's so true. And absolutely. Brenda says we have to allow room for forgiveness. So that is so true. We do have to do that. You have to allow that room in some, well, you talk about it. You talk about that forgiveness piece, because my next question was actually going to be the emotional side of it. And so that kind of correlates with what I was going to ask, because I was going to ask, how do you keep emotion out of the decision, whether to maintain or to release the relationship? So that it kind of correlates with each other.
Yeah. To touch on, I believe it's Brenda that said, yeah, Brenda, I believe forgiveness is very important. We definitely have to allow room for forgiveness. I think the mistake that we often make is that we allow the person to continue to do whatever they were doing to us. Mm-hmm. So, allow forgiveness, allow growth, allow, the situation to change. But then you got to realize, and again, pay attention to the signs of when we're being taken advantage of, when we're being used. And again, what happens, to touch on the emotions, what happens is that we allow so much to happen. We allow so much to happen. We allow so much to happen that now it's so much in us that we haven't dealt with. It has to come out in some kind of way. So it's just a matter of how is it now going to manifest and show itself? Is it going to show itself through depression? Is it going to show itself from an eating disorder? Is it going to show itself from a shopping disorder? Whatever it is, whether you're emotional to the person, whether you're emotion to the people at home or at work. So, one of the keys is that you don't allow things to build up. And you deal with those emotions in those instances, if not in the moment, somewhere close thereafter, because some emotions and some feelings need a minute, we need an hour, and those are the communication pieces that if you say to your friend, your business partner, your significant other, I just need a minute, give them their minute. Not, no, I don't got time for that. You mean, no. What where you about to go? I just need to take a ride. I just need to go sit and digest it. I just need to, So, but that all comes along with who you're dealing with ongoing. Every sport that I played, every team that I was on, everybody that's in my circle, I try to know who they are. If you know who a person is and how they function, you know how they're going to respond. You can give different examples of what a person could do in this situation. So again, that goes back to the original foundation of you have to know who that person is. And as you see them grow and you build those bricks as you're building the foundation and you're orchestrating this room and you want it that way and you want it this way. Those are the times where you're going to be able to understand and how do I respond when he or she gets emotional? Because sometimes we just have to be quiet and let a person, say or take their moment. Because again, now you're completely operating off emotions. It's all coming out. You burnt the bridge. And sometimes we burn bridges and we're on them.
Oh,
sometimes
don't leave that too quick.
Because what happens is if you're on a bridge with your relationship that you're in and you get so emotional, you fly off the handle and you light a match, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
You were so emotional in your feelings. Now you're burning a bridge that you're on. Mm-hmm. You're now causing harm to not only yourself, but to the other person or anybody else that might have been on that bridge. So now you've spun yourself into a whirlwind of depression or debt or whatever it is because you didn't allow yourself to work through those emotions when in a timely manner. So now because people always think about burning a bridge like the person made it across. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we're on the bridge crossing it. Sometimes we are on the bridge together trying to work to get to the other side. And the struggle is one partner wants to move at one pace and another partner wants to move at another pace, or the storm comes and one partner says, let's press our way through the storm. Another partner says, no, let's go back this way. And before you know it, we're stuck on a burning bridge. We're stuck on a bridge trying to figure out because we didn't learn each other enough to say, well, what are we going to do if we get in a storm? Because you didn't pay attention to how he or she responded in their own personal storms. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's so key early on and in the relationship to pay attention. Pay attention how they responded to the storm at work. Pay attention to how they responded when they were playing basketball with their friends. Are they quick to fly off the handle? Are they always ready to fight? Because a fighter wants to fight. So they just have to now understand, listen, I'm going to take care of mine. And I would never consider myself a fighter, but I'm going to take care of mine. So it's like you have to now realize, how do I now navigate and deal with someone that I'm trying to build with that's a fighter? We got to now have realistic and real conversations. We got to really talk about how it impacts not only you, but maybe the people around you and how it's impacting them.
Wow. You never want to be on that bridge while that thing is burning. And sometimes when you're in an emotional state, people don't care. They'll blow the whole bridge up. You on it, everybody on it, the kids on it, it's gone. Everybody. And then everybody's in counseling trying to rebuild that thing back together. Now, we are on YouTube, guys. So if you're not watching on Facebook and you're watching on YouTube, like Glennis King, who has a question, go ahead, subscribe. If you are watching on Facebook, after we get off, go ahead to YouTube and subscribe to our page so that you can keep up on YouTube as well. But Glennis' question is, what if you have two mentors, but you realize that you don't necessarily need both professionally because you want to go in a different direction in terms of a job? How do you let one know without hurting feelings or emotions?
Ooh. It's a good question. And I think the best way that you have to answer that, that I have to answer that would be, how did they become your mentor? Mm-hmm. And what was established? What was asked? What did you ask of your mentor? Did your mentor ask anything of you? And after you kind of realize where you guys stand, like if you've honored, if you would, like, let's just say you signed on with a Glennis. Let's say you signed on with a mentor and you agreed that you would work the 5K or you worked an event, and then you decided that right before that you want to break off. That's not necessarily the best time to do it professional. So I said that first and foremost, if you've honored everything that you said that you would to your mentor, then I think however you feel like you need to say it, and what I mean by that is whether face-to-face conversation or email, you would know your mentor better and how they communicate and how they would receive it. And then be completely honest. You know, share with them. I'm hoping that you've gotten something from your mentors, and however long it's been, say, you know what? It has been a great X amount of years. I have learned so much from you. I thank you for your time, and blah, blah, blah. You share the positive. And even if there is negative, you share the positive that you receive from your mentor, and then you begin to tell them that you're going in a different direction, not because of them, not because of their issue, because you don't want to burn that bridge. Feelings may get involved, Glennis. Feelings, you know, if that person's been your mentor and you've been their mentee for quite some time, you can't always control people's feelings in any relationship. You can't always control it. We do the best we can to be able to be the best people we are and treat them the best way we can. And at the end of the day, if you can look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I believe I said it correctly. I said it positively. I did it correctly. I didn't leave them hanging. I gave them my all every time I showed up. Then you leave the cards where they lay on that one. You just completely. So figure out whichever way is best to communicate with them. Again, whether it's face to face, through an email, through a letter, share with them what they got, what you received from them. You know, people, that's always good when a mentor feels like he or she has poured into you and left something with you. Share that with he or she, and then let them know honestly, you know, you never know where we might cross paths again. You know, this is not the end per se, but this is the next chapter, and it's taking me in a different direction.
That's good right there. So Glennis, that's how you can always butter it up. Tell them, thank you. I appreciate you. Well, this is what you've done for me. I've grown so much, you know, and because of you, you poured X, Y, and Z into me. Now I am here, or I am where you know. So that's really good. That's good right there. So we have a Facebook user that says, if someone burned you, I went on ahead and forgave, but didn't address the issues. Do I let the other person know what they did? And in parentheses, it says, they are talking about you behind your back, but you never speak on it. I left them alone professionally, but now we are back together professionally. Do you have to speak on it so it will not manifest later in the professional relationship in another way?
Are they speaking about you behind your back currently?
Answer that question for me. I don't know who it is, because I would ask that you give StreamYard permission on the post. If you could give them permission, I would know your name and I could see your picture. But at this point, we just want to get your question answered. Yeah. Okay, so no. Right now, they're saying no. So if that situation is in the past, I would leave it there. Because the only thing that it's bothering is you. Like you are still in your past, and you're still in your emotions, your feelings, because we didn't address something. I'm not sure how long you've been on tonight, but I just talked about that in terms of our emotions, is that we don't address them when they happen. So now that I don't know how long that's been for you, but that's festering. That's still kind of bothering you to a point where, for you to even ask if you should address it or not, great question. But if it's not something that's currently happening and you're now back dealing with this person professionally, I don't know if you have to deal with them professionally, but the fact that you are dealing with them professionally means that we kind of leave that one alone. Like that's not something we kind of go back and do. Now, if it presents itself, I'm also going to say this. I'm going to say this real clearly. If it does present itself again, deal with that issue that day. And what I mean by that is, don't bring up 88. Like, don't find the time to bring up 88, 98, 2008. Don't do that, because now that's going to show a part of your character that's unbecoming. Let's not do that. So if a person talks about you, and my thing is, if a person's talking about you behind your back, who are they saying it to? How is that really affecting you? Like, I deal with face-to-face stuff. But if an issue does come to you that's happening, deal with that issue when you can, right then. Don't go back and say, you know what? I should have dealt with you back when you don't hit him with the Kevin Hart. You know what? Right.
let me take my earrings off. With my Vaseline, I'm gonna deal with this because I let you slide last time, and now, nah, we can't. Let's not do that again. But you have to. But you also have to think of, if it's bothering you, if you can't let that go, then you have to find another release, because that's real. I don't want to disregard your feelings and your emotions, because you're human, and how it touched you and how it affected you could be totally different than how it treated and affected me. So if that thing is still festering where it's bothering you, where you can't get past it, then yeah, you might have to sit down with that person and in the right setting and in the right way talk about that. Again, it depends on the delivery and how it comes across. But if it's something that you can say, okay, you know what? Corb said I can kind of let this go. I'm gonna let this go. If it presents itself again, I'll deal with it. But only you know the answer to that. If that thing is bothering you, then you got to deal with that, because that'll affect your professional relationship. Because sooner or later, something, whether it's this or that, it's going to light that match, and you're everything, and that fire is going to light right back up. And now you're going to be on the bridge with that person, and it's going to be on fire. You're going to be on it. You're going to be somewhere in a professional setting or whatever it is you guys do, because it didn't get dealt with. So that's first and foremost. You got to figure out, can you let it go? And if so, let it go. And then I hope it never comes back up. But if it does, deal with that issue then. I hope that answered your question and that helped you.
That's good right there. That's good. That's good. Because I was just laughing at you when you were saying, don't go back. And we can go back now.
Oh,
I've been waiting to get you since 98. So it's on and popping now.
Sure.
So you can't do that. Don't go back.
Like, oh, you was waiting to say that.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, we rehearsed. Look, I rehearsed that. Yeah, so they say if I let it go for this long, ain't no need. Exactly. Because if it bothered you that much, you should have said something when it happened. So evidently it wasn't necessary to say it. And so now let's just move on, especially if you decided to continue it or go into a professional relationship with them again. I mean, was it really that bad?
Right. And that would be my question if I was talking to her one-on-one.
Right.
Like in a professional setting where we both work at Discover Card and we sit next to each other in the cubicle, or is it professional where I partnered with you? Like I made a choice to be your professional. Because if you made a choice, like if you got options and you made a choice to deal with this person, then you definitely gotta let it go. Now, if y'all just pass back at Bank America, or you a nurse and you got to work in the same ward together, that's different. But if you made a choice to be back in a professional relationship, yeah, you got to let that one go. You got to bury that one and never return to that one.
That is so true. Now, how do you exit the relationship without burning the bridge? And give us both scenarios. Like professionally, I think you did a little bit earlier. You said a little bit about how you can do it. Thank them, explain what you've gotten from them. And because if it's personal, it's kind of hard, I would say. Now, school me, but wouldn't it be kind of hard if you're trying to exit and then there's feelings involved, and then you know what I mean? Like, how can you really do that? Or is it time after you do it? Then it's really time that comes into play after that.
Definitely, and it would depend on why we're ending, because if we're, as I alluded to and spoke on a few minutes ago, some bridges you don't want them to follow you. Like it was just a strictly unhealthy relationship, you abusive or whatever the case may be, and you hope they get better, but you're done with that. Those are you just want to get out as healthy and best as you can. But some other relationships, I think you owe it to possibly the person and yourself to try to do it in the best way possible. I know most relationships don't end like that, but the problem becomes that most relationships didn't start on the foundation. So we're wondering why the house is beginning to creak and fall over, and we're seeing cracks in the ceiling, because it's just like the human body. I talked about this one time. People think that the pain that's in a certain area is from that area, And that's not always the case. You know, I think there's a physical therapist in the room, possibly. Mark, 30 plus years in physical therapy. And that is sometimes when your hip hurts, it's because of something going on with your knee, or, you know, if you're having issues with the lower back, it's because. So I said that to say it's the same thing in relationships, is that, you know, sometimes we're seeing some hurt and pain that's happening, but it really came from a issue that never was resolved, or it came from a foundation that we didn't really truly build. So time, as you said, time always plays a key factor. And what I mean by that, I don't mean time in terms of how long have we been together, but time in terms of what kind of time am I giving myself for the exit? Like what are you doing in order to make sure that this is the proper exit? You know, a former relationship that I was in, you know, it split up, try to come back to work it out. And I finally said, when we came back to try to work it out, is that I'm going to do everything that when I walk away or this doesn't work out, I can look in the mirror and say, I did everything I could to try to make this work. And that's kind of how I approach everything now in life. And it didn't work. It didn't work out. And then sometimes that's legitimately the case. It just doesn't work out. And I didn't pay attention to the early signs. I did not pay attention to the early signs. I told myself, this woman is going to get better with time. The things that she was doing that, I told myself, well, the longer I'm with her, she's going to get better. Like, of course. Everybody, just fine wine. We're going to get better with time. Well, no, that's not always the case. And people have to legitimately, I have these conversations. I'm telling you, people have to legitimately understand that is not always the case. That is not always the case. So pay attention to those signs. And then if it is an exit that you do have to make, let's try to do it in the most respectful way possible, because every relationship that we're ending doesn't mean that the bridge has to be burnt.
Exactly. And I heard you say this a couple of times tonight, so I want to touch on it. And that's fixing it, or being the fixer, or saying, when you say, let me give it some time, she's going to get better, she's going to do this, she's going to do that. Sometimes when a person shows you who they are, you should believe them the first time, right?
Well, especially, not to cut you off, I don't know the viewers and their ages. I can't even see who's in here, which I like that. But if it's any young people, you know, people have these growth seasons. You know, people grow from middle school to high school to college, depending on what career field they go in. It'll be another change, depending on, you know, marriage, children. They go through changes. So we do have to realize and understand that there are going to be some changes and adjustments that are going to have to be made, and that we have to be willing in these conversations, in these questions, in this time of learning and growing. We have to realize that we might have to give some things up. We might have to let some things go. We might have to realize that, you know what, and it just depends on what you're willing to accept. And I think that a lot of people, the things that they're willing to accept are because they're hoping that the person gets better, and it doesn't. And that's the tough part. We begin to we begin to what's the word I want to look for? Minimize, if you would, you know, and we begin to accept, you know, what we wouldn't
settle.
Correct. Settle. Yeah. And that's what happens. And then again, we wake up one day and we got 10 years in, or however much time, and it didn't make any change, but now it bothers you because you might have grown more and they didn't. So now you're trying to figure out, well, who are you? You don't even look the same, or you don't look like I thought you would look after 10 years.
Exactly. That's so true. So it's important. It's important not to settle. It's important not to disregard the signs. It's important not to jump in too quick with feelings and all of that. You have to survey the land, so to speak, before you don't even. And sometimes women, we're like, I wonder would that last name sound good with my first name, and you only went out on one date, like really, So slow
Yeah.
down, slow down, slow down. So if say you exit the relationship, and we get ready to wind up because normally we're on here for about an hour or so. So we've got a few more questions. If you all have any more questions though, and you're still here, we'll still hang in there with you. So if you have questions, go ahead and get me those questions. That's what you see me doing when I'm looking over here. I'm looking at questions. So let me ask you this. Say you exit the relationship, you burn the bridge, then you realize later, tag, I shouldn't have done that. Is there any way that you can come back later and try to repair it? Is there any type of recovery, or should you just let it go?
I think there's always room to come back. So remind me so I won't forget this thought. I'll come back to the personal, but I'll come back to the relationship answer in a minute, but I'm going to go with a different kind of personal relationship. Completely transparent. This is me some years ago where me and this individual bumped heads and it didn't work out. And the bridge burnt, you know what I mean? One went one way, I went mine, never thought we would ever cross paths again. Cool. I wish you all the best. And years later, God had a different plan, and we rebuilt that bridge together, and that relationship has now flourished. We are still, like this to this day. But if you would have asked me this some years ago, I would have had no reason to go back and revisit that bridge. Mm. But a situation happened where it's almost like we got to that edge together, and it was like, all right, well, and we said our piece. Right. we shared some things, and that individual and I, we rebuilt that, together, and we were able to kind of cross that bridge together, as you would. So there are many situations where I do believe, depending on what happened, that you do have the opportunity to either cross that bridge again or, rebuild it in that sense. Now, to go back to the relationship side of it, the situation. How did you ask it the first time?
I was asking, is there any way to recover it? Like you burn it up, it's blown up, and now you like, man, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Is there any way other than like going with your tail tucked in between?
I had to hear it for me to get the thought that I left over here.
Go ahead, because I don't want you to lose.
I put it over here when I went. So I think the most important thing is that we have to realize, why did it end? Because typically that's what people tend to think about. Well, what caused us to end? And who caused it to end? Or why did we split? And then see how has there been changes? Like what has changed in a certain amount of time? And have we allowed ourselves to grow? Have we allowed ourselves to heal? Because if a split happens and we haven't grown from it, if we haven't healed from it, and we revisit that person, there's a strong possibility that we're going to face that same demon again. Like we're going to face that same situation again because we haven't gotten past it. So we have to know that, okay, this is what happened. I'm healed. Now we can have a healthy conversation. So I definitely think that there's plenty of situations where, like I said, I kind of joked about it, earlier when you said you can't come back to Craig, right? Because Craig was on a different level. And, studies have shown that women mature so much faster than men. Your goals are different. And I joke with single women all the time that don't be super independent. Like, I know I kind of went off. I'll come back. But don't be so caught up, well, I can do this by myself. If a man doesn't feel like he has a place of being able to take care of you, and we're not counting numbers. Don't get caught up in the counting numbers of what you have and what he has. But just naturally, if he feels like he doesn't have a place where you can just, I'm good without you. Like, let's not throw those words around. They have meaning. We can't just say, well, I did all this before you. When women and men say those kind of things to their person that they're trying to build with or significant other, it holds a lot of weight. You know, words truly do have power, and we got to be careful how we respond, because again, we've established some things. You know, a single man might have his career, he might be doing well, and he might not feel like he needs a person. That doesn't mean that he has to say, well, you know what, I built this without you. Like, you know, we gotta be careful of that. But to go back to the original point, I absolutely feel like you can come back and be able to mend those situations. You know, on a different platform, depending on who I'm talking to. Of course, I would talk spiritually. I'm going to talk about how, you know, what are we equally yoked? Are we on the same page? Are we reading the same book?
Right.
Are we reading the same book? Because that's what happens in relationships. We're so caught up in the, oh, he looks good, or oh, she fine, or she's a good woman. We get caught up in the outside. And I'm not just talking physical. We also get caught up in the what they've accomplished. Oh, she got 2 degrees, or da 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 da. We're caught up in that, and we naturally think, oh, they a hard worker, but we don't know if they can manage their money.
Exactly.
We don't know if their credit is 520. You know, they got 100,000 in student loan debt. You know what I mean? So we don't even know if they might be living in a bank. So it's a lot of different things that have to happen in those conversations. And that's why I was drilling home, you know, to the young lady I was talking to a couple weeks ago. Gotta ask certain questions, not prying, just natural. Just kind of make it a natural part of the conversation. Not I showed up to the date and here's the application. Fill this out.
Right.
Let me see if you meet the criteria. Nah, let's not do that, because again, the person that you met that day, because honestly, a part of my testimony and how I'm able to teach financial literacy was because at one point in time, I had bad credit. Like, you know, at one point in time, I was arrogant, and this is what I told myself, completely off topic, but was I don't need credit. I'm going to do all right without it. I'm going to buy everything cash. I'm cool. Do. So I was kind of in that boat for years. So I had to educate myself on a different way to be able to better myself and my family, to be able to teach my family, so the generations will be able to teach their family. So those are all the questions and I said all that to say is that just because you meet the guy on Monday and he might not meet your standards does not mean he's not going to be at your standards on Friday. Now, granted, that was a small window of an example, but give yourself and him room to grow. And remember that you weren't always wherever you were, and that you don't have it all together. And just, you know, so. That's
true. Lori did say sometimes the changes may be only to appease you for the moment. So you got to be careful of that too, right?
Right. Absolutely. And that happens a lot where people are just, you know, that's the quick fix. You know what I mean? It's like if you need 2 new tires, the fix-a-flat is only going to last but so long. The fix-a-flat is temporary. The fix-a-flat is to get us to the next place. Like the donut. I don't even know if cars come with donuts anymore. I've heard people say
they do.
I don't know if all of them.
Maybe Teslas might not come with them. No.
I'm speaking of
a car person. Like,
but the donut on the car is temporary.
Right.
You know, the donut is meant to get us to point B and hopefully back to A, and then eventually let's change out into a brand new set or a better tire. But what happens is we're in these relationships with riding on donuts, and we wonder why the car is going left, and we wonder why it's shaking, because we haven't addressed the issue. And the issue is that things need to change. You know, if we don't change that donut, eventually it's not meant for long term. So I understand what Lori is saying there, is that it could be, and then that's something that has to be looked at the root. If that's a flag that's continuing to happen, like, okay, when I get upset, something happens, he appeased me for a little bit. A couple months later, I get upset, he does something to appease. Like, if that's a repeat thing, then that's a conversation that you got to go back and figure out, why is it happening? What can we do to fix it? And then you kind of go from there.
Right, because people will put forward their good foot first, and then you find out, ooh, it ain't like what I thought. going to be. Now, look, I want to get to this question. I don't want to hold you too long. It says, as a woman, when is it a good time to set expectations, or is that a thing that's done together?
I would say, what kind of expectations are we talking about? And it will also depend on where we are in the relationship. Those are early on conversations. And when I say early on, maybe not the first date, but if you guys are beginning, okay, first date on a Monday, he follows back up Tuesday, you guys are texting, talking, you guys are sharing. If you guys are beginning to talk on a regular basis, then I think the first question would, possibly start to begin, or, where you see yourself in 5 years? Like, those are all the generic questions that I'm talking about, where it doesn't have to seem like you're prying, but how you respond also is key. Because if a man feels like all you want from him is you're ready to get married, you're ready to have kids, or you're ready to do this, that could cause a man to be on guard, because he feels like, again, like that mentor-mentee relationship, he feels like you just trying to pull from him. So I think there needs to be generic questions, because generic questions, even while you're watching a movie, you could just watch a movie and just, what you think about that, babe? Just generic, is going with the flow, how they respond to it. Pay attention to how people respond, even in movies. If a scene happens on a movie that's kind of like a real life scene, and your significant other goes, that's crazy, I would never do that, and that goes against what you think they should say, you're like, gotta take a little mental note of that. Depending on your significant other, that might be the time to say, well, what did you get rid of the donuts? It would take that time to be able to answer that. Again, everybody responds to questions and stuff differently. But again, it's so many non abusive, if you would, or non-intrusive ways that you can get your questions answered without your significant other feel like you just pulled out the application. If your significant other feel like you created a questionnaire, or he or she, that puts people on the defensive.
Yes.
It really does. That's why a lot of people only do interviews if they know the questions ahead of time. Big celebs, they're like, yo, tell me what you were asked before, because I don't want no surprises. Don't ask me about my 8th kid that nobody knows about because you did your homework. They don't want to talk about that. They don't, it's a real, it can be real, you got to be real careful. You got to be real careful on how things go. But, the questions and, I saw it popped up there. Communication is definitely key.
Yes, it really is, no matter what. And you can't be scared to ask the questions, because that's the only way you're going to find out. You have to ask the questions, sometimes the tough questions, sometimes, So in order to go ahead. I'm
going to say this too. Here's especially to my ladies. I don't know how many are in here. Fellas, it's the same way. The problem also happens is they don't like the answer. I tell women all the time, and I guess it's a man thing. I'm gonna be completely transparent. I tell women all the time, you asked the question, he answered it, and you don't believe him. So if the woman asks a man, you know what, I like to go out sometime, and he says, I don't really like to go out. He just told you. So now when I like to go out. No. The key is now we got to figure out, how do we find a balance between you don't like to go out and I like to go out. But what happens is they ask a question, babe, do you like to go to LA? No. Now you're upset. You asked the question. So you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared for the answer and how you respond to the answer. Because what happens in relationships, if that happens a couple times where you ask a question, he answers it, you don't like it, now you respond in a negative way, he's going to stop answering. He's going to start finding ways to maneuver. He or she, they're going to find a way to get away from that. Or they're going to find a way to start to answer in a way that helps you get through that situation. But ultimately, that's not who they are. So pay attention when you ask the question and be prepared for the answer. If you're big enough to ask, be big enough to take the answer. And hopefully that they're going to be truthful, because that's how you begin to learn and grow.
Right. And I would add to that, once you get the answer, don't manipulate the answer. If they don't like to go anywhere, don't say, he just saying that, or she just saying that right now, but later on they all like to go somewhere. No, they don't like to go nowhere. Like, why do we do that?
Exactly.
Tracy said he's definitely going to stop answering. Yeah. It's like, why? Why should I even say anything? So you're right. You got to be, like Tracy said, be prepared for the answer.
Got to be prepared for the answer.
Yes, indeed. As Albert says, a person's actions will speak louder than words. Over time, a person will reveal themselves. Yes, but it's like most time people don't want to give it that time. They're already planning what color the wedding is going to be, where we going to go elope, and they haven't even had conversations. So that is so true. Is there anything that you want to close us out with tonight? If anybody have any last minute questions, go ahead and get them in. And I'll give you, Corbin, the floor before I ask you how to keep up with you, how to follow you, what you got going on, what you want to say to close us out.
I'll just say to close out is that and be an investor. And what I mean by that is that first and foremost, make sure you're investing in yourself. Don't do it in a selfish way, malicious way, not in a way where you're telling your spouse, I need some time. I'm going to invest in me. I'm leaving for the weekend. No, in a natural way, everyday way, find a way to invest in yourself, because we are not going to be any good to anybody if we're not good. Like, first and foremost, we have to be good. We need to be in a good mental state, spiritually, physically, and then we can be who we're supposed to be to our significant other. We can then be who we're supposed to be on our different platforms. So I know the word investor is being tossed around like wildfire now since, COVID, everybody's investor. But my key that I'm pushing and driving home today and on every platform that I go on is make sure you're investing in yourself, because it doesn't do us any good to buy real estate and have stock and own this and own that, but you haven't taken the time to invest in you. So let's just make sure we're taking the time to invest in you, and then you can invest in others.
All right. That sounds good. I didn't hear anything. Like they said, where is the lie? I can't find one. So that was really, really good. How do we follow you? What you got going on? Do you have any products, services? What you got? Let us know.
So I'm excited that I started a nonprofit a few years ago called Humble But Hungry. We have an annual Father's Day 5K coming up here in Newark, Delaware. And because people are on this call, you have a code right now, 20% off for the next 48 hours up until 11:59. You see the code right there, CWGM. Put that in the code as you go to sign up. You'll get 20% off. So, we have that going on. The 5K is the, continue to do things in the community. We're in different schools, giving back. We give away a scholarship every year. We partner with other nonprofits. Behind the scenes, we host a family every year for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. And all this comes from this race right here. We don't have any grants. Everything comes from donations. Everything comes from this race. But of course, we are a 501c3. So if anybody wants to, needs a tax write-off, feel free to contact us. But if you want to sign up for the race, you want to come walk, run, it's not just for fathers. It's for anybody that wants to come out on Father's Day, right in Bear, Delaware. Some might consider it Newark, Delaware, right at Glasgow Park, right here in Delaware. And other than that, you can find me on The Humble But Hungry One on Instagram. That's George Corbin on Facebook. I'm excited. We launched this today, changing the narrative. So you will see a link very soon on Instagram and Facebook. I partnered up with Dr. Lorleen Black, and we started changing the narrative. And I don't know if you can see from the actual painting, but you have a paintbrush, you have a pencil, and you have a pen. So depending on where you are, some things we got a pencil in, some things we got a pen in, and some things we just go ahead and do our paint in. But for anybody that's trying to help change the narrative, you're doing anything positive, we'll be pushing this merch out, changing the narrative. So a link very soon. Again, this is the first time we've launched it, first time we've shown it publicly. Hoping it will get a good response from it. It will be on Dr. Laureline Black's platform. It will be on The Humble But Hungry One, the number one. The Humble But Hungry One, the number one. And again, I'm just George Corbin on Facebook.
All right. Well, look, you guys, we got to support. We got to support anybody that's out here that's making a change, that's out here. They don't have to give their time. They don't have to give this information. They could be charging. And thank you all to the people who have so into Conversations with Graciously Me tonight. I heard the bells going off. So I will put, after every Conversation with Graciously Me, I go back after the conversation and I put links. So if you could not remember what Corbin said and how to follow him, how to purchase a shirt tonight, how to go ahead and register for the 5K, I will have that on the actually the replay. So you'll see that in the description. I'll make sure that's there. And I just want to say thank you so much, Corbin, for joining us. Tonight has been absolutely phenomenal. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Yeah, taking this time. I mean, it's a great show, Kimberly says. Denise King, great conversation. Stacy Lee said, great conversation. Love this. Yes, this was so great tonight. Alvin said, great conversation. Mary Ellen, awesome. I enjoyed this immensely. And Tyrus, I like that. So tonight definitely was not a waste of time at all. And I just want to say again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Do not go anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and close us out. But if you can hang out in the green room for a moment, I'll be back there to speak to you in 1 second. But I just want to say good night to everyone. So you want to say good night?
Good night. Bless y'all.
All righty. All right. Well, thank you guys. Was this not a good conversation? Oh my goodness. I mean, this conversation was much needed. It is actually, we're wrapping up Love Month, but love is all year. You know, love is all the time. Relationships are all the time. We need professional relationships. We have to cultivate the personal relationships, and we want to know how to do it the right way. So I'm so glad that you all joined tonight. Again, follow the pages, follow Conversation with Graciously Me. Go to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube page. Go back and look at the old shows. There's information every single show that I have been able to utilize myself. Even being the host, I've been able to take notes and utilize. So go back, watch the old shows. I want you all to have a wonderful, fabulous, awesome, amazing weekend so that you can come right on back next Friday. I usually show who's going to be on the show next week, but you know what? This week I said, let's change it up. Come on over to the page so you can see who's going to be on next week. And once you get over there, if you aren't following us, go ahead and be sure to follow us. So I want to say good night. And remember, in a world where you can choose to be anything, always, always, always choose to be yourself, because nobody, no one, ain't nobody doing you like you doing you. Have a good night.